Since your mom is struggling here with culture shock, I went into a depression. In his life, he had never been in the kitchen. He had never done any housework. Like their husband still lived in mindset of back home that it's the woman who does everything. The challenging thing I've ever had to go through in my life. The first black woman to work for us. I received bad news. My father had collapsed and died.
Oh my.
Dead.
Alright guys, welcome back to the Rouz Family Podcast. I'm here with another special guest.
Rouz, Eve's mom.
How does it feel?
I'm getting used to it now.
Getting
used to it now.
Guys, so before we get started, we're on this fantastic cruise. I want to make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. Hit the link in the bio for your Fanatics merch, guys. It's limited sale every single day. So the quicker you hit on that link, the quicker you guys can get a sale to look really good. So, Mom, the podcast that we did last time is doing well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
People like it?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing, subscribing, liking, loving us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's good for you to get out your story.
Yeah.
So we want to continue that. But before we do, how are you finding the cruise?
This is the third time I'm doing the cruise. So it's interesting, but it's just that we're on the wrong cruise. Is it wrong cruise or?
What do you mean wrong cruise?
Not wrong cruise, but I think we came on a cruise. What we expected is not what we're seeing on the cruise. I think not wrong cruise. It's just what our expectations were different from the usual cruises.
We came onto a Pride cruise and LGBT cruise, but you know what? It's been great.
It's been nice. It's fantastic. Very nice. They're nice people. Love them. They're cool. They've got swag. They've got style. They dress well. So they're quite witty, so that's good.
Everyone's been giving you the compliments.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go back before. What made us come to Australia?
So when your father was in Nairobi, he was running a business, public transport business. In Kenya they call them matatus. But then things were not going well, getting conned. The drivers and the conductors, they lie about how the police took money from them. And then also Dad was being harassed by police all the time. They used to come to the house, looking for money, the police.
Really?
Yeah, the police used to come to the house knocking all the time.
So they knew he
was a foreigner.
So is there police around the area? They just knew the foreigner lives there. How do they know a foreigner like that?
That was the time Kenya, the war had genocide had happened in Rwanda, and so many Rwandese had flown to Kenya. Some had taken refuge in Kenya. Some were running businesses in Kenya. So the police just took advantage of that situation. Kenyan police opportunist. So every time, and especially when they knew where you live, that would be a target. So every time they'd come knocking on the door, because you have to bribe them so that they go. So that is why it was too much pressure. And then we decided, initially Alois was supposed to go to London. So we said, let's let him go to London and then he see if there's potential, whether there's things he can do in the UK, and then maybe we join him later. But his visa was declined.
To go to London?
Yeah. As much as I was working for the airline, because when you work for the airline gives you, they recommend, they support your visa. They'll write a letter to say, she's working for the airline, so she's entitled to tickets. You would be happy if you'd assist her or him to go. So he actually went to the UK embassy and they declined his visa. So He was not meant to be. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then what happened? What happened?
And then so for me, what I say is focus and mindset. I have a very strong mindset. When I put my mind on something, nothing will distract me. So then the brother was in Switzerland, Alphonse. Tried to invite him to Switzerland, said, you come to Switzerland and then we can see what we can do here, his brother. And then maybe Rose can join you and the kids later. Visa declined to Switzerland, declined. And then I communicated with my brother Joseph. And I said, but I didn't tell him the truth. I just said, would like to come to Australia to visit. But we had all well planned with the lawyers. So we go there, we go to Australia, we come to visit, and then we see what we can do from there. So we focused, it was just Australia. I went, that time I was working, because I resigned in September with Kenya Airways.
What was that a big decision for you to resign?
It was a very big decision, but I was so focused. My father was very upset with me. He told me that, you're crazy. Why would you want to leave, a job you've been wanting to do for many years? Now you want to go. Are you crazy?
So at that time, how many years had you worked at KQ?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
So, and within those 10 years, your dad had finally accepted, okay,
yes.
she's working at KQ.
We had moved on now.
You had moved on.
We had moved on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I put in my resignation, and the lady, my boss, Susan, that time, was a very close friend to Dad. She refused to accept my resignation. So she went and said, you go and think about it, because I was also pregnant. So she thought it was just hormones, making decisions, the hormones up and down. Maybe there's something else that's impacting in my life. I'm just making crazy decisions. And so she went to speak to Dad about it. That's how actually Dad knew. And that's how Dad came and told me, apparently you're resigning, you want to go to Australia to do what? You have a good life here, you have a good job. Why would you want to go to Australia? He just told me that he does not think I'm being reasonable. My decisions are not reasonable enough.
How old were you at this time?
I came to Australia when I was 33.
33.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Granddad was just like, no, what the hell, like.
Yeah. Why would you want to do that? Anyway, so I just made up, because that's me when I make up my mind, when I want to do something, it's usual focus, that's it. He knew I was going to do it, because that is how I am. Very strong mindset, that's who I am. So and I didn't worry the distractions. There was a lot of distractions when I was coming to, a lot like of what? Distractions. People calling you, people discouraging you, phone calls from Australia, this is not a place you should be here. But I said, no,
I'm going.
That is where we're going.
Because it's like it is, it's going into the unknown.
Yeah.
It's the unknown where it's like, I have a good job. Most people are safe. They don't want to leave. Like, I'm going into the unknown. It's like Australia, okay, you've heard nice things about it.
Yeah.
But it's still that going into the unknown. And it was a huge risk.
It was. And I have an auntie Jadida. She said to me, Rouz, the way I know you, your personality, your confidence, the way you speak to people, you're gonna kill it in Australia. Auntie Jadida, she professor, she told me, I know you will make it. I know you'll arrive there, you'll get your job, you'll do, because I know you.
I know you're enjoying the episode, but this video is sponsored by Fanatics. Now guys, look at me. Look at the drip. You see, it's World Cup season, so you guys can go right now. It's 70% off. They have deals every single day, so it could be 80% off tomorrow, 65 the next day. Guys, there's deals every single day. A lot of you guys have been copping Fanatics merch. Good on you. A lot of you guys have been sleeping. Guys, you guys can cop this merch straight at Fanatics. While you're watching this episode, you can go head over to the link. It's going to take you directly there. You don't need to do anything. While you're watching this video, hit the link. You're going to find anything you want. You see, I'm rocking a vintage Rouz training football jersey. Whatever team you're supporting in the World Cup, go and cop your merch. Even if you don't like the World Cup, even if you ain't watching NBA jerseys, there's NFL jerseys. Guys, there is so much drip at such a good discount. So please, do yourself a favor, go copy some merch. Look at the way I'm dressed. Look at me. It's for women, it's for man them, it is for everyone. If you want to be fly like me, go copy some Fanatics. Hit that link in the description right now. Alright, let's get back to the video.
My auntie had so much confidence in me coming to Australia. So we used to go to Nairobi Chapel in Nairobi, the church in Nairobi, and we told our pastor, Oscar, he was the main pastor, he was the head of the ministry there, and said to him, Pastor Oscar, we're trying to go to Australia. And he said, you're going to Australia? Oh, there's an Australian who has come to preach in the church. It's called Pastor Omar. Well, what a coincidence. And he said, we'll talk to Pastor Omar to make sure. And I said, we're going there. we don't know, it's to unknown. We're taking our children, 2 boys, and I'm pregnant. And he said, no, don't worry, we'll pray about it, and I'll introduce you to Pastor Omar. Introduced us to Pastor Omar. Pastor Omar communicated to people in Australia and said, there's a family that's coming. The lady is very heavily pregnant, 2 boys and a husband, they're coming to Australia. So we pack our things, we started selling our things in Nairobi. I had very nice things. I like nice things for my home. So started selling our things, people coming to our house, buying things. Finally, we left.
Went over to Australia. So when we first touched down in Australia, what was that like? Like, how was because you were how many months pregnant with Emmanuel?
8.5. So, but my tummy was, the way I traveled, people would be wondering, 8.5. My tummy, usually my pregnancies are not that big. So even with Emmanuel, I traveled, but no one could tell I was pregnant. And I was 8.5 months pregnant.
No one could tell?
No.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I came. There's no way airlines would allow me to fly like that, which is a risk. I really took a risk because that's a long flight. But that was just the hand of God that, we landed safely. So arriving in Australia, because of Pastor Omar, we had, they were waiting for us at the airport. So he had organized for us to leave with a Mr. Ward who was living at Summerhill. So he waited for us, picked us from the airport and took us to Summerhill. That was our first suburb we lived.
What was your first impression of Australia off the bat?
Okay, my impression of Australia, because I used to fly a lot, international flying. I did a lot of international flying. It just looked the same with other countries, Western world countries I'd been when I was a flight attendant. The only difference was here, I never saw black people.
Never saw black.
Like I used to go to Paris, black people. Go to London, black people. Go to other places even Scandinavia, like Copenhagen. I see black people, but Australia, never ever saw black people.
You used to go to Copenhagen as well?
Yeah, I used to fly to Copenhagen.
Really?
Yeah. As a cabin crew, yeah.
I used to, go to Copenhagen when I used to live in Sweden.
Helsinki, all the Sweden.
So you've been to all those places?
Yeah, I've been.
Wow.
So it was just the norm for me being in a Western world. However, it's just different that I didn't see any black people, and which was easier for us coming into Australia. You know how to use the train because of my experience going overseas. So for us, that's why the system was. So some people come to struggle how to get the tickets, how to catch the train.
But you knew.
But I knew, and the transport system, the stops. So I knew because of that opportunity I had of visiting the Western world.
So just before you went to Australia, because you have 6 siblings, how many siblings had already gone overseas?
So my sisters were already in London, apart from Gabby, who was still in Kenya. We also applied visa for her to join us in Australia, but her visa was declined. Then Auntie Annabelle's late husband, Mark, or my brother-in-law, the late Mark, he was British. So he applied for Gabby a visa, and then that's how Gabby went to London.
How old was she at the time, Auntie Gabby?
I think Gabby was it 18 or 19?
19.
Yeah.
So you tried to get her to come to Australia?
Yeah, I tried to get her to come to Australia, but her visa was rejected.
Okay, so you had Uncle Jose in Australia.
So I had Uncle Jose.
2 sisters in the UK.
So I had 2 sisters in the UK. And then my brother John was just in Kenya. He's never wanted to leave the country. He flies out a lot, but he's never wanted to live outside Kenya.
Because he loves Nairobi.
He loves Nairobi.
Okay, so no black people in Australia.
No.
Was there any, even just communicating with people? How was it just communicating?
So when we come in, and then of course, we embraced by the Bexley Church, Mr. and Mrs. Brown. Thank you so much. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Brown. Yeah, then they take us in, and we become part of the community. They give us a home, a very big house. So we arrived in Australia. Somebody was living in this home, Mr. Perth, and then he was sick. He had cancer, and he knew he was going to die, but he didn't have any existing relatives.
Wow.
So he said to Mr. Brown, I will give you the house. The house will go to the church. As soon as he tells Mr. Brown that and he dies, and the Rubasha family come. And Mr. Brown just saw us, loved our personality. Straight away he said, oh, we've got a home, a 3-bedroom home. Somebody just passed on, we'll give you that house.
Wow. Do we have to pay rent there?
Not in the beginning, because we just settled. Then after some time, we had to pay. But we were paying nothing, like 120 a week. It was nothing that time. But they wanted us to settle, get jobs, and then,
Okay, so you come pregnant with Emmanuel. Like, any culture shocks? Like, how is that now? You're pregnant, you got 2 kids, husband.
So I'm pregnant. So at Mr. Ward, just before we moved to Rockdale, they were organizing for me home delivery, because we had come in. We don't know the system very well, and people spoke to us and said, they told Alois, because you're from Rwanda and Rwanda had just had a war, you can apply for asylum. So Alois was like, really? Yeah. They said, yeah, you can apply for asylum. So we got a lawyer and we applied for that. But during that time, I was a stay-home mom. So I'm pregnant with Emmanuel, and with the system, so the home delivery, because I was supposed to have Emmanuel home delivery, because we were not into the health system yet.
Damn, so you wanted to do a home delivery?
They were going to do a home delivery for me. But thank God, when Alois applied for asylum, they said, no, if he has applied for asylum, she's entitled to hospital. We can't do home delivery. That's how I ended up going to hospital, having Emmanuel. That was the shock. In Kenya, I had you at Nairobi Hospital, I had Ian at Aga Khan. The system there, and these are really big hospitals in Nairobi, like these are the best hospitals. The system is so good. So you have your baby, the nurses come, they take the baby with them, they put them in the nursery. So I come here, I have the baby. I'm like, take the baby to the nursery. They're like, no, because it's a public hospital. Private hospitals, they do that. They said no. I was in shock. And then after having the baby, back home, after having the baby, they'll bring you porridge, they'll bring you soup, healthy food. Here they bring you a sandwich. And so a cheese sandwich.
So and nursery. What's nursery is where they.
So nursery is a room where they keep all the babies. So what they do is that's why there have been many stories that babies have been exchanged in nurseries. So you have a baby, the baby has a tag. So me as a mother, I have a tag. So I've given birth to Eve, I have a tag for Eve, and then you have a tag on your hand or on your ankle, tag for the baby. So after you have the baby, they tell you you can have a rest. They take the baby to the nurseries. So the nurseries, it's a really nice room where they have little baby cots with different babies, baby Eve, baby Ian, all that. So the nurses look after the babies while the mother rests.
Wow.
Of course, they encourage you, because breastfeeding, you have to do breastfeeding. But when you want to take a nap, they put them in the nurseries.
So in Australia, so you had to hold the baby while
that was the culture shock. That was the biggest culture shock for me. But guess what? When I had Emmanuel, every nurse, the rumor spread in the hospital that this baby is black but with a lot of hair. Most white kids are not born with hair. Yeah, so Emmanuel was born with a lot of hair.
When he was born.
Typical Rwandese, hair a lot. Yeah, most of you were born with a lot of hair. You are not born so much with a lot of hair. You had the raw deal from the Niva, so you've taken the Niva hair. But those 2 other guys, they have the Rwandese hair.
The Rwandese hair. Who was the hardest child to raise out of us 3? Like
Emmanuel.
Like from why was he not eating?
No. Actually, okay. So when you said raise, so I thought in the older age.
No, I mean like.
Okay, no. As babies, you guys were fantastic. I will never. Emmanuel, in fact, it's like something had said to him, your mom is new in this country, be good to your mother.
Really?
Emmanuel was fantastic. In fact, if you ask Mr. Brown, he was the most quietest child in church.
So he wouldn't cry?
No.
He was,
it's just like God had said to him, please let your mom, since your mom is struggling here with culture shock, since your mom is, I went into a depression because back in Nairobi, I had 2 girls to look after my kids. So I had a cleaner and one for the kids. Now here I'm doing everything by myself. And Alois, fantastic husband. So he's in his life, he had never been in the kitchen, he had never done any housework. But he came in here, adapted the system. The Mr. Browns and everyone's are talking to him about it, that you're responsible for your home, you have to do this. He was amazing. Like, I really thank God for Alois. Like, I know friends who came to Australia and they were like, their husbands still lived in the mindset of back home that it's the woman who does everything.
Hey guys, just real quick, I know you're enjoying the video, we're gonna get back to that, but this video is sponsored by Fanatics. Now guys, the reason I've partnered up with Fanatics is not only do I have custom drip, I look fly, the second thing is I get to save money, and that's what I want to give back to you guys. It's always about giving back to the people who come in and support. So guys, you guys can get awesome merch, NBA, NFL, all type of drip at Fanatics. Hit the link in the description. Now guys, there is deals every single day, 65% off, free shipping. The more you wait, the more deals are going to go missing by you, and this is your chance to really save money and get drip at such a good price. As soon as you finish watching this video, click that link, head over to Fanatics and go copy some merch right now. All right, let's get back to the video.
These women, they cook, they will vacuum, they look after the kids, and the husbands are just sitting there. Alois, no. Alois was hands-on. Up to now, Alois is still hands-on.
Because it was like, look, we're here in Australia. It's not like we're back home. So,
yeah.
Mom just can't, you just can't be doing everything. So, I'm really intrigued with Emmanuel as a baby. Like, in that, like, he was just so easy, not crying. And because you were depressed at that time.
Yeah, I was so depressed. I was, when they say mental health is real, because it impacted, first of all, I worked for my life. Like I told you before, my mom was hardworking, and she was hustling, and she gave me very good work ethics. That's why I get my work ethics from my mother. So coming into a country like Australia, I've worked for the last 10 years. Then coming just to sit at home and do nothing, that was the challenging thing I've ever had to go through in my life.
That was challenging.
Challenging, just sitting at home. Yes, I'm looking after Emmanuel, but sitting at home. But also, another thing also, my focus was, I came to Australia and I said, I will go back as a flight attendant. But to go back as a flight attendant in Australia, you have to be an Australian citizen or a permanent resident. All right? So the whole time, we were waiting for our paperwork to go through too. So, and I said, I will not take any job less than a cabin crew.
Wow.
That was my mindset. I will not do anything else.
You didn't want to come be a cleaner, do this and this?
No. I integrated into the society. I needed to know. I went for some courses like cabin crew courses, customer service, because I wanted to know what the society in Australia expects you to be a customer service agent. If you're a customer service, the expectations, it's different from back home. So I was like, I need to know. I gathered my Kenya's experience, and then with the experience here, I said, if I do this, I could make a very good cabin crew. Just like culture, you take your culture back home and the culture here, you mix together and you make a good culture.
And it's what makes you stand out.
That's right. So I was like, I will not. So I used to go for parties, and I used to tell African parties, and I used to say, I want to work for Qantas. They used to be like, what? You're never gonna get it.
Really?
Oh.
People, because Qantas, especially you're black as well, a black woman, so that's new to people.
That's what people were now telling me.
So they're like, you'll never get that job.
People are so negative about it. I said, I used to tell Alois, they don't know who they're talking to. Rouz, the more you tell me, the more I go for it.
Because you used to tell people and they say, no. They don't know who they're talking to.
And for more, I just wanted to prove a point, because they were using more the racist card, like, oh, you can't get it because you're black. Then I was like, in my head, in fact, for me, I'll get it because I stand out. If they don't have black people working for Qantas, if they see me with my experience, they're gonna give me a job. I went for one interview. This was actually funny. I was talking to an Australian, and I said, oh, I lived in Kenya, I worked for Kenya, and I said, oh, my daughter works for Qantas. Check in. Give me your resume. Just like that, an old woman, I gave her the resume.
How did you even get in a conversation with
her? I'd taken Emmanuel somewhere. I cannot remember, but I'd taken Emmanuel. We're going for this like a mother's group thing. So I went there and I was talking to this old woman. Actually, it was her. She'd come there with her daughter-in-law. Then she said, "Oh, my daughter works for Qantas. Give me a resume." Just like that. I was like, can I give you my resume? She said, "Yeah, give me your resume." So she gave me her number, and then she told me drop it on. I can't remember whether it was St. Susie. Drop it there. I dropped it there. 3 weeks there. Let us go for an interview.
Wow.
That was my first interview. I went there. I was very lost in the interview because you know how they do they play games. They're looking at your personality.
But leading up to the interview, how was your mindset? Were you nervous? Were you like?
Yeah, I was a bit nervous because that was my first interview ever in Australia.
So that was your first interview in Australia?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? You come all the way over to Australia. Of course, you've had amazing experience, but it's still kind of daunting. It's still intimidating.
Yes.
But your first interview was with Qantas. How
Yes.
long was that since we arrived?
So that was about one year. Because then now we've got our paperwork has gone through. We're permanent resident now. That is why you can apply for those jobs now.
So you were jobless for a year.
Yeah,
but
I was at home because our paperwork was going through. The paperwork was going through, and that time, asylum seeker, because Alois had applied for asylum. They were paying us. The Red Cross.
Okay.
The Red Cross was paying us.
So you were getting paid to be at home.
Yeah, to be at home. Yeah. Yeah, so, and then
the interview.
I got the interview and I didn't do well, but for me, I took it as a learning step.
What do you mean you didn't do well?
I didn't perform because I went, because there's just stages of interview. So the first stage, I didn't go through. They just told me you're not successful because you have to go there.
Really?
Yes, yeah.
The first stage you didn't get through?
No, I didn't get through. But you know what, but it was good because I learned a lot. Because now, when I went for the second interview, I got it.
So, how long after the rejection, did you go for the second?
Maybe after 4 months.
4 months. Why didn't you get it the first time? Like, what did they say?
They don't give you feedback.
Oh, they don't.
There are too many people.
Okay, in your head.
In my head, I think I was just not so good enough. Like, it was my first interview in Australia. Because back home, we didn't have those kind of interviews because it's so they give you like a game. They put a game on the table. It's not about winning the game, but they want to see how you interact with people.
So you're in a group, and then they say, "All right, guys, play this game."
Yeah.
And what did you do?
Yeah, me, I was just like competitive, wanting to win the game. That's not the thing.
That's typical Kenyan. You're typical
competitive.
Kenyan.
Me, I want to win the game.
So you came in and
want to win the game. But that is not what they're looking. They're actually looking at. It's not even about winning the game. It's about how you interact with people on table, how you're empathetic with people on the table. Somebody's not talking, or somebody doesn't feel. If Flo is like, you're supposed to ask, "Are you okay?" How understanding you are, how well you communicate with the people, eye contact, looking at people. So I didn't have that, but for me, I learned as soon as I went there, and they told me I was not acceptable. I knew what the problem was. Maybe I wasn't sure, but I said, maybe I was too confident. But then when I went for this course, there was a course they were doing in Sydney to be cabin crew. And from that course, I went and I was listening actively. I was called for another interview. Actually, that interview, I went there. They looked at my nails. They were just like, "You look amazing. Look at your nails. Look at your hair." They were so amazing. They said, when I finished that interview, that lady said, "We're gonna give you a job."
So leading up to the second interview, you did the course. You prepared. So you came into this interview knowing, I'm gonna kill it. Like,
I didn't come with that confidence that I'm gonna kill it. I was still very nervous, but I was in my heart, I have to get this one.
Yeah.
And they interviewed me last. So I went through all the stages. So I did all those games, everything. But now, let me just tell you what the guy who picked me at the interview told me when I started working. He said, "Rouz, as soon as you walked into that room, you made an impact."
Wow.
I went and actually bought a very expensive suit from... there's a popular shop in Sydney. They sell very office work stuff, a purple one and a shirt. He said, as soon as you walked into that room, and I had a very nice wig on, as soon as you walked into that room, you made an impact. And I told the manager, the boss, I said, I'm having that girl. That girl must be the first black woman to work for us.
Really?
Yes, that's what he said. Because he said that you walked in with confidence, the way you were even friendly, the way you were talking to people, your personality, were just like, this one, we like her.
And I think, again, like, that's why I like this conversation, because it's, yes, we're talking about us coming to Australia, you coming and becoming a flight attendant, but it's more about the story of determination, focus, and also just having that belief and confidence. You know, like you said, you can walk into a room and make an impact without maybe even saying anything at first. You know, it's that vibrant, that energy, you know, and then being able to communicate, and you know, and that drive, people telling you wouldn't get this job, especially at that time, racism, this and this, like, and you went, no, you were determined, and you got it.
And that is why I say distractions, and the devil is a liar. So when I was in the process, when I was in the process of applying for this job, I received bad news. My father had collapsed and died.
Oh my goodness.
2000.
So that was, oh wow, and that was leading up to the interview.
So I'm leading, so I'm going to, so just before that process now, before that interview, I received news that my father has passed on, dead. You know how shocking that was? He just collapsed and died. I will never forget, in the morning, 7 o'clock, those days we used to have those house phones, calls, your father is dead. I had to go, then I had to go to Kenya. But you see, the best thing about Australia, in the difference between other countries in Australia is, if you apply for asylum, like for example London, you apply for asylum, they're not going to let you leave the country because you've applied for asylum. But Alois here, Australia is fantastic. They said Alois is the applicant, so you, Rouz, can travel. Alois can't travel, but you, Rouz, can travel because you're Kenyan, you know. So that is how I traveled. Now I had to go now to Kenya, but I went with Emmanuel, and then I had to leave your dad with you two.
How long did you leave him with?
We went to Kenya. I think we were in Kenya for maybe 3 weeks.
Wow.
Because I think 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks.
How was receiving that call?
Oh, devastating. Even I went through a lot of distractions. After that, Auntie Annabelle's late husband died. Pilot crash. Again, I had to leave. But this was Annabelle's late husband's family paid for us a ticket with Emmanuel, British Airways, yes, to go for the funeral in London.
How come you kept going with Emmanuel?
Because he was the baby. I was not going to leave him behind. I was not going to leave him behind.
Wow. So like, again, like you said, distractions. Like,
so that's distraction.
Imagine like you hearing your father passing, you know, you're leading up to an interview, this and this, you know. Yeah. That's damn.
But you see, that is what I'm telling you. When it's meant to be yours, it's meant to be yours. They sent me an email interview. I replied. I said, I've lost my father. They were so empathetic about it. They said, you go home and sort it out. I came back. I forgot about it actually, until one day I received a phone call. Said, are you still interested in flying with us? I was like, yes. Hell yes. Yes.
And then boom. How often do you pray? Or like, okay, even in those times, but like in general, how often do you pray?
Yeah. Let me know, every time I go to bed, I say a prayer.
Every time?
Every time. I just say, even if it's 3 sentences, you know, I normally will not go on my knees, but I pray. But as you know, I always listen to gospel music when I'm in bed. So for me, that's also a way of worshiping. I worship God like that. But maybe daily, or sometimes after, even last night I said a prayer. So just to thank God. Me usually now these days just thanking God for what is doing in my life, in my children's life. I am at a place I'm just thanking God now. I don't need to ask him for anything anymore.
But back then, were you very
very prayerful, even fasting.
I think
even fasting.
If I think back to when I was younger, you were very
prayerful.
And the only reason I brought that up was because it's just like throughout this whole story, constantly, it's just how God was. Like, you look back and say how God was protecting and just God was working within our lives and looking after us. Visa getting denied, you're wondering, why is the visa gets denied here, this and this. You meet this person coincidentally, but it's not by coincidence. It's like it's God. So it's just like, wow, like the story is really inspiring.
Good for me. That is why I'm saying right now, I don't ask God for anything anymore. Yes, there are things I'm waiting on God to work on it, and I know He's going to do it. I'm not going to say now, but that will be a podcast for another day. What I've been praying for and what I'm thanking Him for. Because when you ask God for something, you can't keep saying, God, please give me that thing. You say, now, thank you, I've received it. So right now, I'm thanking God for what He's doing in the life and what He's going to do.
Amen.
Amen. So we'll have a podcast on that.
Quick question: How was I as a child?
So
let's talk from let's say from the ages of young till 11, 12. Just those.
So you were a very quiet baby, also. But then around 1. So when you got to 1 year, you were very outgoing. In Kenya we say kimbelembele. You're a bit like me, mjuaji.
At that age?
Yeah, too much no. So I remember, 1 year you started doing things, but then 2 years you started not even dancing with us. We used to dance Lingala Kofi.
Really?
Yeah, you want to dance with us. I had bought you some shoes they used to be called Caterpillar. You used to love those shoes. You wear your Caterpillar and you dance, but you had a temper when, one time I hit you and you said, Mom, you hit me, and you're like 2.5 years. Why did you hit me, Mom? Why you? And I'm just like, but anyway, and then you were one of my slow kids. So, and it used to frustrate me. So that is where I learned and tell parents, do not compare children. That's when I realized all kids have different personality. When you bring up the firstborn, then you have a secondborn, don't compare them. Even as older children, I learned that because I used to compare. So because Ian was so quick, when Ian was young, he got things very, very quickly. In fact, the first word Ian learnt was Jesus, because the maid used to say Jesus. One day I was just in the house and he said Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, because the maid used to. So Ian learnt a lot of things, even learning in school. He was very quick. I never had to sit, just read a book you'd read. So when it came to you in Eve, man.
I remember.
With Eve, I used the vowels. A, E, I, O, U. I was going crazy. I was teaching Eve. I was the most impatient. That's why I can't be a teacher. I used to hit you. I said A. I said A, E, U. Oh, and then you say, but in school they tell us it's I said at school they don't even know you should be knowing sounds, because me I know when you start in school, even in Kenya, the first things you have to learn those sounds, the vowels. Were they 5? Are they 5 vowels?
5 vowels.
A, E, O, U. Yeah, 5 vowels.
Was Ian Mujuaji when he was Mujuaji means was he? Yeah.
No, Ian was quick in school.
But I'm saying just in general as a kid around, was he Mujuaji
No. Ian was cheeky. I used to, in fact, there was one time I had to buy the leash. You know the leash for a dog?
Really?
Ian was naughty. Ask anyone. Ask Akinanti Fofo, Kinanti Annabelle. Ian was naughty. You could be sitting here with Ian. He's going to sit on top of that table. We were in another party. We had gone to a party in Auntie Agnes's, Nana's house. We just had a glass break. When we went to check, Ian, he sat on a table with another boy. They were very naughty. Sat on this table and the glass just went. I don't even know how he survived.
So he was just a naughty
He was full on. But somebody told me that is a sign of a smart kid. But me, I was like, no, I don't want even that smartness. I do not. So channel his energy. So somebody was telling me, channel his energy. His energy needs to be channeled. But sure enough, even when we came to Australia, Ian was not even in class. He was a noisemaker like me. And that's why I used to get so upset with him, because I used to be like, because I saw that in myself. I was a noisemaker in class and I know what it did to me. So when we come to Australia, Ian is a noisemaker. I'm like to the teachers, even if it means sitting him in the corner by himself, isolated from the other kids. And the teachers loved him because he was very smart. He was even accelerated a class. I had Ian.
He was smart, huh?
They said, in Africa he must have had a very good education. That's what they said. They put him a class higher.
Really?
Oh yeah, he was very smart. But making noise. And that is why I used to. Ian is another one. I used to beat.
You used to beat him?
Oh yeah. Because I know I made noise in school, in class, and I know what it did to me. I missed out on so much. So I didn't want it to happen to Ian again. And he had so much potential. He was smart. But look how quiet he is. But and then you, who was the slow one, look where you are now.
So I was slow when I was younger, but I was still like confident.
You're still confident. You know, talking even in church. You know, you know how Mr. Brown used to have kids in church. So they say, ask questions. They give you like the 10 commandments. I give you 2 weeks to study the 10 commandments. But you know what? You boys made us proud. So all these kids were told 2 weeks, come back and do the 10 commandments. The Rubasha boys, you and Ian, you stood up and said all the 10 commandments.
Boom.
Boom. All the 10 commandments. You had reading them, all the 10 commandments. And you're the Rubasha boys. That's why Mr. Brown had so much interest with you guys, because he saw the potential. He said these kids from Africa but very smart.
So we were smart.
And personality and outgoing, laughing with people. You know, you were never kids that shy or sit in a corner and start looking like, you know, like the other kids. Africans would come and just be in a corner. No, you are outgoing. You are, you know, playful. Mr. Brown's, they loved you. Even Mrs. Brown, they loved the Rubasha boys a lot. The only one who came very different was Emmanuel, very quiet.
He was very quiet. And I remember when I was younger, I used to dance Michael Jackson when guests would come over.
Yeah.
You know, I was always, you'd
be the dancer. You'd be the person saying, oh, we can do this. And always, you are always, you are so creative. Everything, you know, you had something to talk about it. And you could also argue at the same time, but argue in a nice way. But, you know, coming up to say that, well, you guys also need to listen to me. This is what I have to say.
Really? At what age?
Yeah, you are an outspoken child.
What age was
So, but that one we started seeing that at about 8, 9, 10, 11. Really, like outspoken. You know, you start saying, now, I have to say this, and I have to say this. And we had to listen. But, you know, but when it came to, you know what? I really thank God for that time, because me and Alos, we connected with our children. Because when we came to Australia, everyone was saying, oh, you need to buy a house. You need to buy a house. But us guys, we didn't go with that pressure. You know me, if I said, oh, let's buy a house, then we'll be focused. No, we just stayed where we were. For us, we were thinking, if these guys can ever have good education, that is what matters for us. Whatever they do with it, it's up to them. But if we can have good education, and that is how, you know, Mr. Brown came and told us Scots College, and that's where we took you guys. So we didn't care about paying rent still. Yeah, that was
So you guys were more like, let's instead of investing in let's invest in our children.
Yes.
Like let's go. Like we never really struggled to go to training. Of course, when we got to teenagers, 15, 16, and you know, more responsibilities for you guys, we're going ourselves, but that's later on. But it was always taking us to training. You invested more into us.
Our time. So even in the beginning, Alois, when we first came to Australia, we took you guys tennis at the Hilton, and it was expensive an hour. It was like those days $20 an hour. Yes,
and we used to hate it.
Yeah, and then we took you guys tennis, and one day you guys said, oh, we want to play soccer, which was good for us because soccer was cheaper. You get? Yeah, tennis was a bit expensive. And you know, I knew you guys would not do tennis a lot because of concentration. Tennis, you need concentration. My kids don't have a low concentration span. Yeah, exactly. The attention span is very little. So I knew maybe soccer is good for them. Then also we took you guys swimming. That's how you guys learned how to swim. You see? We took you guys swimming, and even the teachers were like, I think they could be very good swimmers. If they came all the time, they could be professional swimmers. But yet you guys again didn't want to do swimming. You wanted to do soccer. Yeah, so we thank God that we put a lot of time. When we put a lot of time in our children, whether it's soccer and you've grown older, you guys have gone to different countries, it is not because we are those parents who sleep and say, yes, we are parents who say, if he becomes a soccer player, that's a bonus. We thank you, Lord. But if you're just playing because, you know, we're there to support your dream. So some people get it wrong. They start thinking that we live through our children. Some parents live through the children. They are thinking like, I will not work. I will not make money because I know Eve is going to be a soccer player. No, that's not the point. The point is I'm supporting Eve with his dream. If Eve calls me today and say, Mom, I've been called for a trial in Argentina, I will raise money with Dad. We'll sit down and say, how much can we support? But it's been through challenging, and I ask parents and everyone out there, if your child has a dream, family support, do not be negative. Do not Do not look at it like, why are these people doing this? Do they think that kid will be a soccer player? Do they think they're going to be a basketballer? Support that child. You're just supporting the child. Whatever, and I'm telling this to African parents especially. Let us learn to support our children. Your child, they come to you and they say, or you see talent in a child. See a talent in a child. Be there when they're going races. I know we like to go to work and it's hard in the system. It's really hard. We need the money, you know. But at the same time, be there for the child. Because I've seen so many children, even in Australia, they can run, they're good athletics, they can play soccer, they can swim, but because the parents are not there to support the dream, that is also a problem. And also for me, I thank God we connected with you guys. There was no social media then, because now kids are spending so much on TikTok, Instagram, you know, Facebook maybe it's a little bit old school, but they're spending so much time on social media that they don't have time with the parents. They're doing so much behind the parents' back on internet, and the parents have no idea. You guys, we didn't have that. We didn't have, that's what we could pick when you're doing silly things straight away. We didn't have social media, but social media right now, and that is why parents, let the kid come from school, be a little bit on social media, say out, let's go. Whether it's soccer, whether it's walking, whether it's training, get the kids out to do something. Do not encourage this social media.
Because the social media will be raising the children.
Yes, it's the social media that's raising the kids now.
Yeah,
it's not the parents.
You're out at work, you're doing all these things, and you don't have so much time with the kids. And I think even with the episode with Dad, he talked about like he had that time with us as well as a father.
Yeah.
And parents, you know, to be able to connect with your children. Yeah. That's why we can do stuff like this. You know? Like,
yeah, that's right. And another thing is, parents think it's so cool. Like, you know, me, I was very strict. When we went out, no child said I want to stay home. We went out to visit people in the community in Australia. Ask them, you know, every parties. I was invited. I took my boys with me. Any child, at one stage when people started growing older, they stayed home. I disconnected internet. That's what I did. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but that it was, because there's no way I would trust you in the house just being on the internet. So what I did with my boys when they're 15, 16, say, okay, we'll stay home. I said, fine. Those are the days you just disconnect, you pull the modem. I remember it was old school modem. You just pull. I go with it in the handbag. So they have no internet.
That's good. Yeah. And people can still do that till today.
Yeah.
You take out the Wi-Fi in the house for the kids. Yeah. You know, whatever, 15, 16, you take it out if they want to stay home.
They can stay home. They can stay home. Yeah, you can. I used to be like, they can stay home as much as they want. But that internet, I will disconnect it. Even TV, you guys, and I think that's why most of you guys in the house don't watch TV a lot. So my children with TV, there was no TV Monday to Friday. You start watching TV Friday, remember? Yeah. Saturday, Sunday. Then back, no TV. Yeah. So I was that kind of mom. And
I think that's some good advice for parents. I think we're going to end it there. I really like this episode. Guys, we're on this beautiful cruise. We're on the water, man. It's crazy, right?
That's
we're on the water. It's beautiful. But yeah, we're on the water. We're on this cruise having family time. There's no Wi-Fi or anything, so I'm going to post these videos and everything later. We're just enjoying the company. So Mom, thank you so much. Again, we're going to get you on again and continue this family legacy. And I think just continuing these conversations, because these are conversations that we need to have and people can hear. And I think it's cool just learning this, like, going back.
Yeah. There's more coming. There's more that we need to talk about, you know, raising children also in Australia or rather in the Western world. There's more coming, and we're just going to be honest about it. And as parents, you know, just look after your children and let your children be honest.
Alright guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching this episode. Please guys, hit the link in the description for your Fanatics merch. There is a sale on right now, guys. There's deals every single day. Sometimes I don't even keep up with the deals because they're just updating. So click the link in the description and you're going to get amazing deals on some custom merch. You know, whatever team you support. If you want to get your father a gift, you know, whatever it is, your brother, amazing gifts on amazing prices. It's all about saving money but looking good while you're doing it. So make sure you hit that link and we're gonna see you guys in the next video. Dad, take a photo for the thumbnail. We even forgot to take a photo for our thumbnail.